This morning's guest can help administer your estate, marry you, or mix up a mean Singapore sling. Meet the Honorable Deirdre Edmonds, Horry County's Probate Judge, coming up next. Good morning. Welcome to all American people. This morning we're at the Horry County Government and Justice Center in Conway. We're focused on the probate court, and we're visiting with Horry County's probate court judge, the Honorable Deirdre Edmonds. Good morning.
Good morning, Greg. How
Judge
are you?
Edmonds. Now, do you go by, is that Honorable Edmonds or Judge Edmonds or?
Judge Edmonds.
Judge Edmonds.
Yes,
okay.
in my official capacity.
That's
but
tremendous.
On the street, people call me Deirdre.
Deirdre, you're used to, well, we'll stick with Judge Edmonds this morning.
All right.
Very exciting to get you in. What about this magnificent facility y'all have?
It is a very nice facility.
This must be a thrill coming to work every day.
It is. It is. We enjoy this building. Very comfortable for the people that use the services of the probate court. Very
Yes.
comfortable for the staff. Meets all of our needs.
Absolutely.
We're growing now. I mean, so we don't have a whole lot of room left in the probate court. So if we grow much further, I think they're going to have to get us some more space.
Getting you a new building.
That's
yeah.
right. Well,
yeah.
you know, we store the records in the probate court, and so we have a limited amount of space there.
Right.
And because of our caseload growing, we are growing out of storage rooms. So,
Now, why is the caseload growing?
you know, I don't know, but starting in January, we have had an extra large caseload, a lot of estates being filed more than normal. So if we stay on course, we're probably going to exceed last year by 400 or 500 estates.
Is that right?
That's right.
So what would have been the total number of estates y'all handled in 2010, just plus or minus?
Probably about the total number of new estates.
Okay.
About 2,000.
Okay,
Granted
right.
that we already have a lot of existing estates that we're
Right.
working on, because usually an estate does not go through a process in a normal 8 or 9 months. Usually they're going to take 10, 15 months, maybe 2 or 3 years, depending on what's going on in the estate.
Are there ever reasons why estates would be open more than those kind of time periods, 5, 10, 15 years? Is that such a thing?
It is, but it's the exception.
Right.
Usually an estate's going to be open for a year or two on average, but we do have some estates that are still open after many, many years. A lot of times there'll be litigation going on that the
Right.
parties cannot resolve, and sometimes if there's litigation, they will appeal to the circuit court on up to the Court of Appeals or to the Supreme Court, and that usually takes quite a long time. Sometimes there are tax situations involved. We have a couple of states that have tax arrangements with the Internal Revenue Service that they have a period of 10 years to actually pay all the estate taxes that are due.
Wow.
And so we will keep those estates open for that period of time.
Sure.
So they can, it's not the norm though.
Truly the exception. That's
Yes.
fascinating.
Yes.
What about, you know, when folks hear probate court, I think there's probably a lot of misconceptions, or people just don't understand what that is. You've mentioned wills here and
Right.
estates, so that
Right.
must tie in, but how, if someone asked you in an elevator and you had a little time to talk about it,
Yeah.
how would you explain it?
I think I would best explain it by the thing that we do the most. What takes up most of our time would be the administration of decedents' estates. After a person passes away,
Right.
the family will come into the probate court and we'll assist them with whatever needs to be done with the estate. But we also handle guardianships and conservatorships, and we do quite a few of those.
Oh, I bet.
We do guardianships for incapacitated adults, conservatorships for incapacitated adults, and conservatorships for minor children who receive or inherit money or property or something of that nature.
Right.
We do a lot of trust litigation. We have a new trust code in South Carolina in 2006. That's led to a lot more litigation in the trust arena. So we do a lot more trust work. We do commitments in the probate court. So if you have a family member who is addicted to drugs or alcohol or has a mental illness and they will not seek treatment on their own, the families can come into the probate court and ask us to commit them involuntarily, put them in the hospital for treatment. And unfortunately, we have a lot of that in Horry County.
Now, is that just in Horry County, or is that in all 46
That's
counties?
all 46
the commitment.
counties, right.
That's-
Commitments in all 46 counties. In the larger counties with the larger population, they have more
Right.
work. in that area. And then I think the last thing that we do is we issue marriage licenses.
Oh yes,
So
absolutely.
we have a lot of people that come to Horry County that want to get married.
Oh, I bet.
They apply for a marriage license and they come into the court and they pick up the marriage license. We also perform the wedding ceremony. So
Oh really?
a lot of people
Wow.
just want to come to the courthouse and get married without, you know, a big wedding. And
Yes.
so we do perform wedding ceremonies in the probate court
Does that happen often?
daily.
Oh, come on.
Oh yes, yes, I'm sure we do ceremonies every day.
That is incredible. And so it would be either yourself or one of the associate judges, or
Actually, usually not. Usually our clerks, who are notary publics,
Okay,
they
sure.
perform the wedding ceremonies.
Right.
Occasionally a judge will perform a ceremony,
Right.
but usually it's the staff that do those ceremonies.
these are folks who really want to get married, yeah, and make it happen
Yeah.
now.
Well,
I
you
thought
know,
that was just in
these
Vegas.
in
Yeah.
these economic times, you know,
Right.
spending a lot of money on a wedding
Yes.
is a hardship for a lot of people, but they're in
Absolutely.
love and they want to get married, so they just want something simple at the courthouse.
That is wonderful. That is
Yeah.
fascinating. It sounds like a lot of those things you would, a couple of those you would have to have an attorney around, but a lot of things you may or may not need an attorney.
That's right. A lot of people administer estates without an attorney involved. A lot of times they do want an attorney. Maybe they don't want to be bothered with it. Maybe there is a complicated estate, so they feel more comfortable having an attorney. But there's not a requirement that a person have an attorney to administer an estate.
Okay.
Usually if a matter involves a trust situation, in 100% of those cases they're going to have an attorney because they're going to have to file legal papers to commence an action in the probate court.
Okay.
Guardianships and conservatorships, we encourage people to have attorneys, but they're
Right.
not required, but it's a difficult legal proceeding where you're actually
Mm-hmm.
declaring someone incapacitated. A lot of steps to go through. So we encourage them to have an attorney, but they're not required to have an attorney.
Okay.
So a lot of people do administer estates through the probate court. We have a wonderful staff of legal assistants, paralegals, that assist the public in doing the estate administration, and so
Right.
they can't give legal advice, but we provide them procedurals, the procedures of going through a probate administration. And we have a lot of forms in the probate court.
Oh, I
so
bet you do.
there's a lot of
Golly.
assistance there in filling out those forms and knowing what to file.
Speaking of that, we mentioned the word attorney. Are you yourself actually an attorney?
I am.
Okay.
I've been licensed since 1987, graduated from USC Law School, and I practiced
Congratulations.
law for about, I don't know, 15 years before I ran for probate judge.
Okay, sure.
Doing a lot of estate planning, some elder law, a little bit of corporate work, a little bit of tax work,
Right, right.
business type practice.
When you think about actually stepping out and running for office, Judge Edmonds, that must have been, and when we say judge and running for office, a lot of folks wonder about that. I mean, in and of itself, do you think
Right.
it's right to have to run for office?
Well, you know, the probate judges in South Carolina are the only publicly elected judges.
Okay.
We're unique. So all of the other judges in South Carolina are appointed, whether they're appointed by the legislature
Right.
in Columbia or they're local judges appointed by a municipality.
Okay.
Or our local delegation, the Master in Equity, is appointed by the local legislative delegation. But the probate
Right.
judges have always been publicly elected. And I think it's difficult to take away an elective office from the people that they've been used to electing.
Right.
There are some difficulties that come with it because occasionally when you get out in politics and meet the voters of the community, you get
Sure.
to know people.
Oh, yeah.
And then they come into the court as litigants,
Right.
and it's hard to hear their cases. There have been many times that I've had to disqualify myself
Oh,
from
yeah.
a case because I knew some of the parties.
Sure.
So in that respect, it makes it difficult, but I enjoy getting out and meeting the public and
Oh, yeah.
making a lot of friends. So in that respect, I do enjoy it.
That's tremendous.
Some states, they elect all their judges. South Carolina does not.
Well, of course, I asked you that question as an attorney because I believe it's the case to be a probate court judge in South Carolina. It's not a necessity.
No.
You actually are an attorney.
It is not. You do
Okay.
not. In South Carolina, you have to be 18 years of age, a registered voter, in order to run for probate judge. So you do
Right.
not have to have a law degree, be a practicing attorney to be probate judges.
You know, when we think about, there's so many aspects, and I think when we think about family disputes in court, that
Right.
probably a lot of things come up when you're when wills come into play. Is that a real problem for you all?
Well, it's not a problem. That's what we're there for, is to try to administer these estates that people come in and open up for their family members and hear their disputes. We have a lot of estates that go through the administration without any problems, without any disputes among the family members. When we do have those disputes, we recommend that people consult with an attorney because we cannot give them legal advice.
Right.
And if they file a lawsuit against the estate or against people involved in the estate. Then we have hearings in the probate court. One of the things that we're doing with a lot of the litigation, if it's contested, is we try to refer the litigation to mediation.
Oh.
It seems that when people can sit down with an independent mediator, a third
Right.
party who has no interest in the proceeding, who
Sure.
can look at it from both sides, the parties oftentimes can resolve their disputes through mediation.
Yes.
And I think it's a big benefit to people to allow them to settle their case by entering into a negotiated settlement versus having their case decided by the judge. Because many times when the judge hears the case, one side's going to win, the other
Right.
side's going to lose.
Right.
When they reach an agreement, they've all given something, but they've also received something in return.
Oh.
And we have a lot of success with mediation in the probate court.
Is this relatively new? I mean, is this something that's just been around a short time?
It's new. We adopted the pilot mediation program about 2 years ago statewide, and the probate courts can voluntarily participate. And we've been
Right.
participating for the last 2 or 3 years. And 90% of the cases that go to mediation are settled through mediation.
Tremendous.
Absolutely.
Wow, those are the kind of numbers you like to promote.
Yes,
That is
yes.
wonderful. Are there any other new projects that the probate court has kicked off recently?
We have a new project that we are in the midst of right now, and that is a new case management system. Ever
Right.
since I became the probate judge, I've been trying to get a new updated state-of-the-art case management system, which would allow us to keep up with our cases, to scan, digitize all of our records, so that instead of looking at the hard files, we would have the actual documents on the computer, and you could go through the file by looking at them on the computer.
Wow.
It would allow us to have a lot more information. Right now we have a very old case management system, very limited amount of information about the particular case. So when
Right.
someone calls up and asks us about a case, all we
Sure.
can give them is the information in the computer, which is very limited. Now we will be able to actually pull up all of the documents and either email them or fax them straight from the computer documents if they need those documents. The public will come in and look
Yes.
at the documents on the computer rather than having to find the hard file and look at the hard file. So
Okay, so that will really benefit the
it
general
will be
public.
a great benefit.
That is tremendous.
Let me give a lot of kudos to our IT director, Sheila Butler. She applied for a federal grant on behalf of the county, and she included this new case management system in that grant. And it was awarded, and so that's where the money is coming from, is from a federal grant to install this new case management system.
That is tremendous.
Yes,
Kudos
very
to her.
excited about it.
That is wonderful.
Very excited.
Now, if my will is administered here, is that going to be confidential? That'll just be kept. No one else will know about that, right?
No.
No?
The records in the probate court, as well as all court systems, are public records. Anybody can come and look at them, with few exceptions. I
Okay.
mentioned the commitment records.
Right.
When we commit people for mental health or alcohol and drug abuse, those are
Right.
confidential private. They are
Okay.
not available to the public. All of the other records in the probate court, whether it's someone's estate, whether it's a trust matter, a
Right.
guardianship or conservatorship, those are all public records. As most of the records in all of the courts, whether it's the family court, the circuit court, court of appeals, those type of records are generally public records. There are a few family court records that are confidential,
Right.
but most of the court's records are public records.
That's
Anybody can come in and
fascinating.
look at. We
Does-
have people come in all day long looking at the court's records.
I was about to ask, and what? Of course, you don't get into it why they're
That's right.
looking for it, but
That's right.
what
That's
would be
private.
oh, I know, but what would be a typical reason why someone they're just interested
Well, some people are doing genealogy research,
Right,
and so
sure.
they come in and look for records
Oh,
in
yeah,
that nature.
good point.
Some people know that they had a relative that passed away. They're interested in knowing whether they maybe left them something in their will.
right?
Maybe
right,
somebody
right.
wants to know how much property their neighbor owned, what they died, who they left their home to, or something like that.
Yes,
So
yes.
one of the other things, we have a lot of people that in buying and selling real estate, they're checking the titles to the real estate.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And many times a person will die, of course, and they will own a home. And if that home is sold at some point, then they're going to have to come to the probate court and check the records to make sure the home was properly administered through the probate court, the ownership
Okay.
of that home. So we have a lot of title searchers coming into the probate court to look at the probate court's records.
That is tremendous. Well, of
Yeah.
course, you talked about the new case management program and making that beneficial for the general public. Obviously, you talked about the general public coming in, and so you sure want to make it. Will that also make it easier to get a marriage license?
It will, because one of the things that we're incorporating into this new case management system is the ability of a couple to apply for a marriage license.
Oh, great.
Fill out the marriage license themselves, type it up, their own application, and email that to the court. Allow us to review the marriage license, make sure all the information is correct, and then have them come in and sign it.